What's happening, perfectionists? My name is Russell Holiday, and this is the Nothing is Perfect podcast. And we're here today for a very big show. We've got none other than Mr. Nuckhead, your favorite Canucks YouTuber, joining us today. We're going to chat about his Canucks fandom. We're going to talk about his channel, how it got started, what it's like running that YouTube channel, and as well, we're going to get his outlook on the Vancouver Canucks moving into the summer and moving into the new season as well. We are joined by one half of the Rusty and Dusty sideshow, the Silver Fox, Mr. Dustin Boydell, and he will be joining us to chat about the Sportsnet 650 closure, which took us all by surprise. We're also going to dive into everything that happened in free agency with regards to former Canucks players signing elsewhere, comparable contracts that have been signed that may help the Vancouver Canucks, offer sheet chaos as a number of offer sheets have been signed, one been matched, and one that has been waiting to be matched. And then we're also going to look at some team-friendly deals and some not-so-team-friendly deals that were signed. So that's all coming up on today's episode, so stay tuned. But we're going to start things off, like I mentioned, with my chat with Mr. Nuckhead. On October 17th, 2023, this Canucks content creator posted his first video on YouTube entitled "Why the Canucks Will Win the Stanley Cup in 2024." In the 3 seasons since, he has posted 685 videos on his YouTube channel. He's amassed nearly 35,000 subscribers and received over 11 million views. He provides clear-headed Canucks coverage for fans who prefer clarity over endless doom and gloom. Please welcome to the Nothing is Perfect podcast, the man, the myth, the legend, Nuckhead.
Hello.
Welcome.
I'm glad to be here.
Great to have you on,
I didn't
brother.
know like half of those stats. I think the 600 videos is including YouTube Shorts, which
yes.
I know it is. So to be fair, I'm not that prolific. That'd be insane.
Yeah, that's a lot of videos either way. So if by some miracle as a Canucks fan, you have not consumed his content yet, you've got a big backlog to get up to date on. So Nuckhead, on here on Nothing is Perfect, a lot of the time what we want to do is get some of the background on your Canucks fandom, how it all started and stuff. So can you tell me, when did your Canucks fandom start?
Not really, honestly, because it's kind of like I don't remember when I first walked. It's kind of, I'm not even trying to be like funny. Honestly, that's just what it is. Like one day I became sentient and was a fan of this team. Not sure how or why. I mean, I can put two and two together. My family, I grew up probably watching alongside them. They're big into hockey, all sports really, but mainly hockey. And I played hockey growing up. I mean, it was just, second nature. It was just baked into me.
Did you have a favorite player growing up?
Like at different points. I mean, I was a big Alex Burrows fan because I would always like, you obviously love the Sedins and you love Naslin, but I would tend to, those ones are already taken. So I'd be like, okay, I like this different guy. I kind of like Nils Big Hog Hoglander. But yeah, like Burrows was a big one. When and this is blasphemous, I know, but when Sidney Crosby came into the league, I was like at a prime age to be very influenced, and I was like really excited about him. So for like maybe a couple years there, I would say the Penguins were my second favorite team, but I never watched them or anything. I would just go check their stats, see how Crosby was doing. And I still have an immense amount. I mean, who doesn't? Immense amount of respect for Crosby. But I mean, I think Burrows growing up, Bertuzzi was sick. Sammy Salo was a big one. Let me think here. I liked Brian Allen for some reason. I remember there was a couple years when I was playing hockey, I decided to wear number 5 because of him. I'm not even a defenseman. I don't know why I did that. But yeah, those are probably like the early favorite players growing up.
Well, you're in good company because the Penguins have always been my backup team for the amount of times the Canucks have missed the playoffs. So Sidney Crosby,
I mean, it's a pretty harmless team to keep tabs on. Like the Canucks and Penguins never really like when there's a rivalry there. I'll and I don't care about them anymore. But you know what I mean. It was they never collided. It was never a problem.
It would take a Stanley Cup final to have that happen. And I think we'd be all right with that.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Canucks moment? Like, is there a moment watching a game where you absolutely were flabbergasted with what you were viewing?
I mean, yeah, Burrow's overtime winner against the Blackhawks. I mean, that's I remember. I think I told the story on one of my videos, but I remember that day. I was at school, and there was I can't remember the exact details, but I remember I could feel my heart beating that day, and I was stressed out, and it was like maybe 2 or 3 years out from my grandma having a heart attack. So I called her from the school, and I was like, "Hey, grandma, like, don't worry, but like, what were the symptoms of your heart attack?" And she was like, "I'm coming to get you." And she came and picked me up, and we went to the clinic. And obviously, like, there's no reason I should be worried about my heart. I think I was like maybe 14 or something like that. I mean, or 15, I think. It was absolutely ridiculous, but I guess better safe than sorry. We go to the doctor, and I remember like him doing tests on me and like kind of, just trying to get a vibe of like what's going on. And then I remember at the very end, he was like, "Are you by any chance a Canucks fan?" Because that was the night of Game 7. And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Dude, I think you might just be nervous." And I was like, "Oh, this is my first time experiencing like genuine anxiety, maybe." I don't even know. But and then that night I remember when they went to overtime and Burroughs took a penalty, that power play, Chicago. I remember, I think it was Patrick Sharp had like a really good chance to win the game on that power play, and he kind of didn't get all of it, and Luongo made a great save. But when that power play happened, when Burroughs took the penalty, I remember having to go upstairs. I was at my grandparents' house watching, and I had to go upstairs and drink water. And I'm such a big fan. Like I'm one of those guys that like pauses it. Like if I have to go to the washroom, like I never like to miss a moment. But in that moment, I remember like I actually couldn't handle it. I just let the game play. I walked upstairs and just stood at the sink and could like faintly hear the commentator. And I was just like, okay, good. And then I didn't even watch it. Like I went back down, and then that's when Burrow scored. So that's got to be my favorite moment. It was such a release. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who took a visit to the clinic that day.
Well, Nuckhead, I've got good news for you. All you need is a time machine, because I got 2 tickets right here to Game 7 against the Chicago Blackhawks in 2011. So get your time machine out. Let's go.
Wait, were you there?
I was there.
Oh, okay, you got to tell me what that was like.
And speaking of needing to go to the doctor, Nuckhead, when Burroughs scored that goal, I screamed so loud that I literally blacked out and slumped over in my chair at Rogers Arena. The next thing I remember, I was looking at the roof of the stadium, wondering if I had just dreamt the goal. But I absolutely screamed so hard, I blacked out and fell over. It was absolutely crazy. It's the loudest I've ever heard Rogers Arena, and it was an absolute dream state at that point.
Imagine if the whole crowd did that.
Biggest goal in Canucks history, and it's a complete silence in the stadium.
Yeah, that's wild. Wow. I mean, I don't blame you. I feel like, yeah, you had to endure that overtime penalty kill. I mean, I would have been. I think I would have been out cold.
A lot of people forget, like, they were up 3-0 in that series. It was a 3-0 series lead, and then they lose 3-0. I didn't even know if I wanted to go. I was like, should I just sell these tickets? I'm about to witness the biggest collapse in the history of the Canucks. But instead I went, and it was great.
You made the right choice. They were also up 1-0 in that game until the final couple minutes, and the goal that tied it was shorthanded. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Toews. I knew it was Jonathan Toews and it was in the final minutes, but just actually a few days ago, I was reminded that it was shorthanded. They the Canucks had a power play with 3 minutes left. You're like, oh man, here we go. Like, this is it. Best power play in the league. That was their bread and butter that season. And then, yeah, Jonathan Toews scores shorthanded, ties the game. Oh, it could have gone. It was so close to going the other way and being probably the most. I mean, would you go as far to say that would have been the lowest point in Canucks history if they had lost that game? Probably, right?
Yeah, 100%.
To this day, probably. Yeah. But then it flipped it right around. It was, I mean, you could argue this for sure, but I would say it's if not one of the best moments in Canucks history. It's my favorite moment for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you played growing up. Do you still play to this day? Do you get out on the ice every once in a while?
I'm on what do you call it? Like a pause right now. I kind of hate it, to be honest. I mean, I keep saying this, but I've been meaning to join year after year after year. But I haven't played since like 20. I think 2018 was my last season playing. So I'm still a hockey player at heart, but I haven't played for a while. My grandpa, he just turned. Let me get this right. He's born in 39. He just turned 87, and he's still a goalie. So he's still playing, which is crazy. And that's something that like I have in me. I know I'm gonna get back to it. I just haven't for a while.
Fair enough. Do you have a moment in your career playing hockey that stands out as like your favorite moment?
I mean, the career of a house hockey player is definitely worth documenting. So let me just think here. Left winger for the Thunderbirds. I was, I think I got MVP at like a tournament we did in Coquitlam once. I got a hat trick in the final game, and that felt pretty cool. So maybe that. I also was a pest. Like I would really like to get under guys' skin. Like I wasn't a big hitter or anything, but if some guy tried to hit me and missed, I'd be like, haha, nice try. And there was a few times where like, especially in my later years when I was older, where like guys were like asking to meet me in the parking lot, and that felt like a little trophy as well.
That's a win for sure. Did you play with Diener HD? Because I feel like that might be something.
No. I think he's no, I don't think so. I'm pretty confident saying definitely not, because I think he's a decent amount younger than me.
So a question I love asking people too: if you had to choose a hated rival of the Vancouver Canucks in a player, what player have you always secretly wished would put on the whale on their chest?
Like a player I hate that I secretly would like to have on the Canucks?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll give two answers. The easy one, which is low hanging fruit here, but I don't even really feel that way about them anymore. But the Oilers, obviously, like for maybe 3 years there, just despised them, and now I kind of just feel bad for them. But I always hated Leon Draisaitl, and who wouldn't want him on their team, right? So that would be my first one. But then maybe like a deeper cut, like I think I mean, how like Marchand, maybe. Maybe Marchand. Gallagher's kind of an interesting one. Like, there's never really been a crazy rivalry with Montreal, but he's, if you're anytime you play against Montreal, he's going to annoy you. Now that he's on the team, I think that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's not a clear answer, but maybe Marchand, Draisaitl for sure.
Yeah, not a bad couple answers there. So let's talk a little bit about the channel, the Nuckhead channel. Why did you start making YouTube videos, Nuckhead?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a blur, to be honest, but I do remember. I just was really getting fed up with the doom and gloom, and it's not like the fan base as a whole. It's very much just like, honestly, a handful of loud people on social media, specifically like Twitter, and a couple of the analysts too. But for the most part, it was just, I would scroll, and I would just getting fed up with all the negativity going into that 23-24 season. And I mean, I always have a really good outlook on the team. Like, I always think they're going to do well, to like, whatever doing well, the definition of that changes year to year. But that year, I remember thinking, I was looking at the team, I was like, you have this young core, like pretty much just entering their prime. Besser probably was in his prime, but you got Pettersson and Hughes. Obviously, Miller was firing on all cylinders, and I was just, and then I loved Garland. I know, like, going into that year, there was people talking about maybe he was going to be traded, and I just looked at the team and I was like, man, like, I really don't think this is as bad as it looks. And yeah, so I made a video about that. I was kind of like, I don't think this is as bad as it seems. And went kind of full the other way. Like, if someone's going to say, oh man, the Canucks are doomed, they're cursed, oh, blah, blah, like all this ridiculous stuff, I'm like, all right, well, let me meet you the complete opposite way and say they're going to win the cup. Which, hilariously, I don't think I necessarily would have bet money on that, but I think that might go down as a year we look back on, along with like 2011, 2003. Is it 2003? Yeah, 2003, 94, as one of the years they probably could have won the cup, which is So funny how that ended up happening. But yeah, that was where it was started. I just wanted to like kind of get. I was fed up. I needed to get something out, and I guess it turned out that other people were feeling that kind of similar way, just tired of the doom and gloom, the, not like just constant, no matter what it was, finding a way to make it negative. So yeah, that was kind of how it started.
In some way, do you kind of understand where fans that are like that? And I mean, there's a couple of guys, like you mentioned, some of these analysts, like I've had to stop watching some channels just because every single time I turn it on, it is just that. It's doom and gloom. It's trade this guy. This guy's not good enough. In some way, as a Canucks fan, does it kind of make sense that people have turned out that way, especially these guys who have been covering this team for like 30 years?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the heartbreak of 2011, and if I was, 10 years older, I'd remember that with 94, and if I was 10 years older than that, I'd remember 82. And I get like, you eventually just kind of get fed up, but I think like, especially when you're talking about analysts, you need to be honest. Like your job is to analyze and deliver information honestly, and not to let any other, because at that point, like your past trauma, for lack of a better word, with the Canucks is not like that doesn't fairly represent anything to do with the current team. Like, I mean, especially when you're talking like, someone brings up something from the 80s, let's say, and it's like, okay, well, not only are you talking about like completely different team on the ice, you're talking about even different ownership and coach, like staff, arena, like it's just kind of like, of course, I mean, that's obvious, I would hope, but it kind of, it just bothered me because, I get like the jokes and like, oh yeah, they're cursed and all this stuff, but truly, like if you're an analyst and the Twitter people, whatever, like those are just guys tweeting, girls tweeting, but the analysts, those ones probably bothered me the most because it was like, I don't know if they're having a bad day or if they're going through something behind the scenes, because like, that's the other thing about sports, especially as a fan, right? Like you don't have control over anything, and and not to be downer, but we convince ourselves a little bit that we do, right? Like players taking the mic after a game saying you're the best fans in the world. Like that's great. But this is a corporation that we're supporting financially. And these are guys that like worked their lives and put so much on the line, like sacrificed so many things to like get to where they are. And it's about them, and it's about those guys. And we're rooting for it, being from Vancouver, growing up here. It's, there's that aspect to it. But it just kind of like reminding like, okay, we don't have an actual say here, and it's definitely like a therapeutic endeavor a little bit. Like, we put a lot of our emotions, and it's a great one thing I love about watching Canucks and hockey in general is like I could be going through some dark stuff, right? But for 2.5 hours, I'm completely tuned out of it. Completely. It's always been that way throughout my whole entire life as a kid, whatever it is, my first heartbreak, like all this stuff. Like I could be like wiping tears away and then turn on the Canucks game and I'm in it, right? So, and I know that there's a level of that too. So I guess, I don't want to take anyone's escape away, but part of it was like, look, if you're an analyst, especially if you're an analyst, and even if you are a random person who's, managed to get a decent amount of attention online, I think at some point there is, because now you're dictating like other people's feelings on this. And I think you don't have to sugarcoat it. You don't have to be, oh, it's all positive. Some people accuse me of that. You don't have to do that, but I think you'd have to be honest, and I'm not perfect at it. I'm trying to be, because I know that I even have my own tendencies maybe to like, I guess, sugarcoat things or something, like, not in an intentional way, just with who I am. But anyways, that's a long answer. I forget the question. I don't even know if I answered it, to be honest.
You did. You nailed it. You nailed it. What would you say has been the hardest part about running the Nuckhead YouTube channel so far?
Oh, that's a good question. Finding like a rhythm to get into with, a healthy process when it comes to putting the stuff together. I try to be, I get up Monday to Friday, like work 9 to 5 on it. And because it's a creative endeavor, I'm sure you've had this before as well, where it's like, of course, even if there's news to talk about, there needs to be that creative spark where you're kind of excited to talk about it. And I tried, and I think I'm failing to be one of those people that can kind of take any little piece of news and make it interesting. So especially during the off season, that's kind of like, if you look at the stuff I've put out over the last couple off seasons, it's kind of throwing stuff at the wall, being like, okay, what do I talk about here when I'm, in between interest with the team. Like, because again, I still love the team, but there's 3 weeks of like, oh, we just signed a guy to a 2-way contract. Like, okay, is that a 10-minute video that I can post once a week? No. So yeah, it's kind of just like figuring out how to keep going and do it healthily as well. Like when they were in the playoffs, I burnt myself out big time. There was I look back and I'm proud of it for sure. Like there was I put a video out for each individual game, and they were long videos, like they were well made. I remember I'm proud of it. But that last game, or it was actually game 6 against Edmonton, I was up until 8 a.m. editing. And I remember like, oh, I did such a number on myself. I was like, I am so beat up from this. That was fun, and I'm glad I did it. But if they make the playoffs next year, I said this last time, like in 23-24, I was talking about, I was like, I can't do that again. I have to figure out like a better way. So basically, long story short, the answer would just be like figuring out how to do this without burning myself out.
We've talked about the hard part. What's been the most rewarding part of running your YouTube channel?
Oh, the community for sure. I mean, it's so fun just being able to like speak my mind, I guess, in like a creative way, and make people laugh, and then see how like in the comments, like there's memes, or like I guess, yeah, memes like growing over time, like people referencing stuff from past videos that are like 2 years old, and the conversation in the comments, like the community is really like probably the best part. Like that's really, really cool.
So let's talk about the video editing skills. You're working hard on those playoff videos. What kind of background did you have in video editing, and where did you get those skills from before you started the YouTube channel?
I'm always making stuff. That's like always been my job since out of high school. I just make stuff independently and put it out. And so over the years, I've just, I guess, kind of got a handle on how to use certain softwares, like Adobe Premiere for editing, and Logic Pro for music and audio, and Photoshop, I guess, for like thumbnails and all that. And so just over time, like, yeah, I just kind of gain the skills. Those are just like super fun programs to mess around with for creative people. So I've been using them for as long as I can remember.
Have you always been such an amazing MC?
What do you mean by that?
The songs you put on your channel, man. I love the songs, bro. Like the amount of effort you put in to these amazing auto-tune masterpieces. Like I saw a post on Twitter the other day of people asking for what your favorite Canucks related songs, and I was like, man, I should see. Does Nuckhead have Spotify yet?
I have one song on there. It's the Nils Höglander goal number 2 song was the pretty much the only song I like. I didn't sample anything, because the other songs I make, like I'll find samples and stuff that I'm doing it so quickly that I can't put those on Spotify, because I'd have to find and make sure I can legally do it. So those are just like, they live in the videos. But yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, I've been creating like just making stuff for as long as I can remember. It's like my first gear as a person. So like, I don't know how to answer that. I don't even know if I like it's good. Like sometimes it's ridiculous, but
ridiculous is a good thing sometimes. A question I love to ask people I bring on the show. It's a question that they'll ask NHL players about their welcome to the NHL moment. You get your face off against Sidney Crosby, you get body checked by Chris Pronger, whatever it is. So what is your welcome to the NHL moment, and why is it Victorio Mancini quoting a Niels Big Hog Hoglander song on Big Hog's goodbye post?
These are great questions, by the way. Yeah, that blew my mind. That was really funny. I saw someone commented on one of my videos. I want to say like, I don't know, sometime in the last year, and they said like they were at a signing, and they asked Nils if he knows about the big hog thing, and he said yes. And now that's just a YouTube comment. Like I'm like, oh, that's whatever. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Maybe someone's just trying to get likes on the comment. I'm not sure. But after that Mancini thing, I'm like, oh, great. Like he for sure knows. And that was definitely like, I'm like, I go back and watch that last video I made saying goodbye to Nils Höglander with a different angle. Like I'm now looking at it through the eyes of Mancini or Niels Höglander, and I'm just cringing. I'm like, man, this is hilariously dumb. Like not cringing in a bad way necessarily. I'm so proud of it, but it's more just like I can't even imagine if that were me and someone was doing that. But it seems like, I mean, the fact that Mancini quoted a very specific line in the song that doesn't really mention, like it doesn't reference anything about like what it is, gives me insight into like, okay, that must have been an inside joke. Like he probably said it to Nils a couple times. And so, yeah, anyways, I thought that was funny. That is the answer. That is the welcome to the, I mean, I guess welcome to YouTube or whatever. Welcome to weirdness.
Yeah. That was always my concern because as a guy who streamed during every single Canucks game, I've been wearing this mask for the season, and I heard they were not letting people into the arena wearing paper bags on their heads. So I think I may be already banned from Rogers Arena. So we'll have to wait and try that out. But I haven't been to a game since I started the channel. But I will be burning this mask this off season at some point to release all the demons from the year that was.
Yeah, I was gonna say that had a vibe to it, an eerie. I heard like long like violins playing in the distance when you put that on. I think I hope you're not on a list. That would be just for that bag, you think?
Oh, I mean, they were literally preventing people from coming into the stadium while they had paper bags on their heads. So,
okay, well, fair. I also made a post saying free Bagsy. So, I mean, if there is a list, I might be on it as well.
We're still working to get Bagsy back his press pass, so we'll have to wait.
Really? I just assumed it was all good.
Yeah. No, I haven't heard. I think he's still working on it, but you never know. The new regime, maybe he gets it back. We'll have to wait and see.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any advice for any kids out there listening to the podcast or any people who are feeling creative and want to get into the kind of Canucks content creation realm?
Yeah, I mean, I think just my first thing would be don't overthink it probably. Like that's the one, like the thing I don't remember making the account. There's a lot of things, like I said, I'm a creative person. There's a lot of things I've started where I pondered, what it should be called or how it should look. And, for months and, sometimes in a lot of cases never even got to making it. But this Nuckhead thing was so weird because sometimes like I think like back to when I put the first video and I don't even remember where I was when I was editing it. Like it was all very like flow state kind of thing, and I didn't overthink it. And so I'm very lucky in that because I am an overthinker with this kind of stuff, and I tend to overthink videos now. But for some reason at that start, I didn't. So I would definitely say like don't overthink it. Like if you don't need a perfect name, you don't need to know really what you're doing or how. Like my first video sucks in comparison to what I'm making now, and that needed to happen. So like if I think you get in your head, you think, okay, the first thing I do needs to be really good. It's always going to be bad compared to what you eventually get going. So don't overthink it, and then also be very, very like careful with the way you use AI for creative content. That'd be my other thing. I've seen a lot of using AI for little things. Like I'll for thumbnails, like I'll AI out a player in the background to make make it look cleaner. Like, I mean, someone might say that's bad, but I think I use it in a fair way. But like, I've seen these channels, not necessarily in the Canuck world yet, or maybe I did. I can't remember, but where like you can tell it's like an AI voice and maybe even an AI script, and then maybe the only human part was the editing, but I'm not even sure. And I'm not even like, oh, that's wrong, and it makes it's like there's no talent. Like not even that. It's more just like it's gonna hurt your content because there's gonna be so many AI YouTubers popping up. There already is, and you're just gonna blend in. So that would be my advice, is like not trying to stand on any moral high ground, like, oh, you shouldn't use it, but just genuinely like it's going to hurt your content. Like you're better off, like the imperfections of how you make your, like what your voice sounds like or how crappy your mic might be for, all that stuff. It's going to do better.
Yeah. Nothing is perfect.
Exactly.
Yes. What's the hardest part about being a Canucks fan?
What's your answer for this? I'm curious.
I think my answer for this is, as much as you get some of the big highs, it seems like there are a lot more lows. And if you're willing to hang around through those lows, I think for some reason the Canucks franchise, and I've been cheering for the Canucks since the 94 run. I moved to BC in 92 and then the Canucks playoff run happened and that was where I started with it. So if you're willing to hang out and take the downsides of it, I think that's the hard part where there are highs. And I think as a Canucks fan, I think the highs we get are higher than a lot of other teams. Like you can look at some of the rivals of the Canucks, the Minnesota Wild, the Calgary Flames. Like there's a couple other teams that are, I mean, the Seattle Kraken are a great example too. They've got a team that's completely composed of middle six forwards, right? So it seems like for whatever reason, every once in a while the Canucks just pop off, but there are a lot of really tough years to be a Canucks fan. And so I'd say that's probably the hardest part is it, you have to wait and you have to be patient. And so that's probably my answer.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's the other part of the question, I think, is also like, a Canucks fan, we're picturing a certain age group, but it's also like, there's like a 9-year-old right now who's, got his face painted blue and green. And, let's say the Canucks come out and have a great year next year. That's all he's going to know. So asking him that question would be like, he's like, oh, it's awesome. So it's kind of like, I think maybe it's less about cause like sports teams they're going to suck and they're going to be good. I mean, no one wins this every single year. And I mean, I do agree that okay, how about this? If the Canucks or when the Canucks win the Stanley Cup, part of me, I am going to go nuts. I'm going to it's going to be the best party in the city's ever had. But then it's kind of like, I'm like, now what? And of course we want another one, but there is something to be said about the struggle. Like, I don't want to be like, again, this is where, people who are like, oh, he's just trying to be positive, but I really mean this. Like, there is something to be said about the struggle. I'm not saying, oh, it's good and I'm enjoying it and like, we're all happy and yay, oh my God, the Canucks suck. But I think it's part of what it means to be a fan. I mean, honestly, like if you were a Vegas Golden Knights fan, and I'm sure they're having a blast, but I don't know. I mean, how good do those cups feel, or that cup, I guess, I'll say, how good does that success feel when all they've had is success? I mean, it's I think you kind of need this. Now, the rebuttal there would be, do we need 56 years of it? And I'd say no, but not everyone, I haven't had 56 years of it. I've had 28 years of it or whatever. And there's a kid out there who has none of it. So I don't know what it's like to be a Canucks fan. If I don't know, it's weird. It's complicated. There you go.
What I guess the other side of the coin is, what is the best part? What keeps you coming back?
Oh man. I don't. Hope probably. I mean, it's also just at like a very base level, it's extremely fun to watch. And it helps to watch. I don't care about soccer, football. I've never cared about it. I played it a little bit as a kid, but outside of that, never cared about it. But now that we have a team to cheer for, I'm into it. I'm like, let's go Canada. Like, it's awesome. So it's that's the thing about why I come back, is because I'm so devoted to this team. It makes the sport so much more fun to watch. But outside of that, I mean, like, why don't I wake up and start following, the Golden Knights next year? It's just something about how it's baked into you. I mean, could you physically do that? Could you switch teams? Like, could you actually get to the point where you're like, you know what, I've had enough? Because people say that. Like, I know people say like, oh, I'm done with the Canucks. But like, are you really? Like, can you physically actually be done with the Canucks?
I tried. It was 1998. I tried to not be a Canucks fan, right? Year. That's a good year to try to not be a Canucks fan.
Was that right after they shafted Linden?
Yeah.
Or was that?
Yep.
It was. Okay.
Yep. Mark Messier was the captain of the team. Pavel Bure wanted out. Alexander Vigilny looked a shell of himself. Right. It was an absolute disaster. We had the coach and the captain of the team that beat us in 94. It was insanity. And I did my very best. My email address was Canucks fan forever. And I was like, I need to get a new email. And I couldn't bring myself to doing it. And the next year, the season started. Canucks are going to win the cup this year.
Wait, really? So what? You ended that season. You were like, okay, you were in the off season, like, all right, let's switch up, and then puck dropped, and you just found yourself sitting there watching?
Well, of course, that's the 99. The Canucks draft the Sedin twins, and suddenly I'm like, you know what? There's a chance.
Dude, you know what's funny? Like, it really does sound like an abusive relationship, like where they just, they're bad to you, bad to you, and then they do something, you're like, oh, you know what? They're pretty nice, actually. Like, this is why I like them. You know?
Yeah,
It's
all right. Let's talk a little bit
yeah.
about the actual team, because there's been a lot of changes this offseason. We got the Sedins as co-presidents, which is hilarious because it's another very Canuck thing to have happen, having co-presidents. RJ's been promoted after winning the Calder Cup down in Abbotsford, which was awesome. Manny's the coach that we wanted, absolutely. Richard Seeley seems like a good guy. The draft went well. They did some trades. They've had some signings. So the hope is feeling very strong right now. Are you feeling the same way? Like, is this team and this giant barge of a franchise slowly turning in the proper direction?
Dude, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of funny what we just talked about, because it is like, I'm sure there was a couple Canucks fans that were thinking the same way you were in '98 going to this season, and then they do make these moves and they're like, great, now I'm back. But honestly, yeah, I mean, I don't think you could be setting up any better, right? Like, looking at it from, I mean, okay, looking at it from a fan perspective, which is pretty much all I can do. I'll say, like, what a good, even just branding wise, to have, the two most beloved Canucks take over as presidents, right? And now you have like a big chunk, if not all fans, on board with that. And Ryan Johnson, his stint here was short, but all you have to do is hear him talk for a couple minutes, and before you're like, I trust this guy. Like he's smart. He knows what he's talking about. He's really good at stringing together a sentence, which, I mean, some guys we've had weren't. So, that's maybe a low bar, but he really does seem like he knows what he's doing. And that's great. And I thought, he wasn't like a fan favorite while he was here, but he was one of those guys that like put his body on the line. I mean, probably the guy that put his body on the line for the team. So, I mean, he probably was a little bit of a fan favorite, a bit of a like a Kiefer Sherwood kind of just on the side. But anyways, yeah, I mean, branding wise and like all that, like those are just great moves, to get the fans back on board. And then in terms of like what they've actually done, because like, that's the most important part. Obviously it's early, but I think they're killing it. I mean, Marcus Pettersson for a first round pick was just incredible work. Like, well done. Like that was I thought it was possible just because it's not that far removed from when the Canucks made a similar trade to get him, but his value definitely lowered. And I don't know, it's great. That's awesome. I like the draft picks, although like, we can just say that we don't know. They could all bust, knock on wood. We don't know. But yeah, I like what they've done. Oh, and Manny Malhotra. I mean, he, again, another guy that just like was a fan favorite without question while he was here. And like a very, very, very good, hardworking type of player while he was in the league. And another guy that just seems like he has a lot of intelligence, like not only in the game, but like how he talks, how he processes questions that are asked of him, and all this stuff. And I mean, as a fan, like, cause we don't know the guys, like that's kind of what we have to go on. And I don't know. I think it's great. I really, really do. And I really hope that Malhotra and Johnson, like we look back kind of the way we do it, like, John Cooper just being a very long tenured coach. I think that's a possibility. Things have to go well, but I mean, he's got his kid playing on the team. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. How do you feel about it?
Oh, I'm stoked. I can't wait to see a father-son duo win the Stanley Cup together. Like that'll just add to the, the CanCon of the Canucks moving forward, right? Like everyone's like, oh, I don't know if they should do this. Having father and son, I see what happens in junior, and the son gets the extra time because that's not going to happen. We watched Manny Malhotra as a player. We watched him as a coach. And even I keep on bringing it up for a lot of people who don't follow the Abbotsford Canucks. The Abbotsford Canucks won the Calder Cup. That was incredible. We were live for all those games in the finals. It was great. The next season was really, really tough. They lost 300 man games, and they also had all of their best players called up to the Canucks, who also had 300 plus man games lost. And on top of that, they still managed in the last 50 games of the Abbotsford Canucks season to have a 500 record. He kept that team positive. He kept the culture good down there, and he had them running like a well-oiled machine, despite the fact that they had half a roster that should have been playing down in Kalamazoo instead of with the Abbotsford Canucks. So Manny Malhotra has gone through 2 seasons of the AHL that will perfectly place him in the experience that he needs to move forward for a rebuild that can be tough, but also be ready for when this team is ready to make that step into the playoffs and ready to make a run. So I think Manny Malhotra is so perfect for this, and Ryan Johnson is incredible. And then just to cap it all off, like you said, to have the Sedins on top of all of it, who have been some of the hardest working guys who earned everything they got when they were players. I'm very excited about the future of this team. And I think it's going to be, I think people are going to be surprised with how good the team looks next year. And I'm not willing to say that they're necessarily going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be a team that people are going to be proud of. And I think that's the number one step for this rebuild.
I totally agree with that, by the way. I think saying that they're going to finish last next year is going to let a lot of people down, like the ones who really want that top pick again. Because they have a lot of young guys trying to make the team, trying to prove themselves, and some guys who are, we don't know how like those steps Bouillon and Melander are going to take. And even like, I know again, like we got a big question mark obviously, but like Kromacki, like what if he comes out and he's like, you know what, I'm ready for a 20 goal season, right? You just don't know. And that's kind of the fun part of cheering for a team in a rebuild. It's like, the worst case scenario, I guess, is a high pick again and another player to be excited for. And the best case scenario is seeing these guys get better and better and better until, people start talking about playoff contention and more. Also, I will say about the Sedins too. It's kind of obvious, but like they were within 4 goals of a Stanley Cup here, and there's no, like, of course you want to win, right? You want to win, period. But like they've got a chip on their shoulder, right? They didn't leave the city. They raised their kids here. Like they're Vancouverites, and they know, like, they followed the team. They know how important it is to the city. And regardless of that, they want it themselves. And we saw Luongo win with the Panthers and how much that meant to him, even though he wasn't playing. The Sedins want this, right? And that's another really, really exciting part about it. Like they really want this for sure. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah. And I think my favorite player has always been Trevor Linden. Like he's always been my favorite guy. And
wait, who? Sorry?
Trevor Linden. Yeah. Trevor Linden was always
that must have been awesome to have him on.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was incredible. He's such a nice guy. I was so nervous going to that interview. And then as soon as we started chatting, he put me at ease. It was great. So such a nice guy. He got hired as the president of the team. And a lot of people made the comparison with the Sedins getting hired. The difference being is when Trevor Linden was hired, and I love the guy, that was a PR move. That was the ownership of this team being like, hey, look, it's Trevor Linden. And then when he finally figured out the job and really started getting good at it, he's like, well, actually, we need to rebuild, and everything got tossed out. The difference with the Sedins is they did their due diligence, very similar to what they did with their playing career. They took their time. They learned all the different ways that this team runs. They got to know all the different departments. They were working their butts off in practices in Abbotsford. They would show up at Vancouver practices as well. So they did all of the work to get ready to be the presidents of this team. So that's another thing that really gives me confidence for the Sedins as the co-presidents moving forward. I think they're going to do a really good job for us.
That's a good point. It's funny. The Sedins are so, like, I don't even know the word right now, but they do things so cleanly. You know what I mean? Even just the year they retired, they just were like, okay, we're retiring now, and just and left on an incredible note, and then took a couple of years and then came back. Yeah. And like they worked their way up. Kind of throwing it back to the question you asked about, like, the hardest part of doing the YouTube channel. That's kind of what I want. I'm inspired by that. Like I want to be so regimented in my day-to-day operations, the way they appear to be, where they're like, all right, like we're going to do this. We're going to focus on only this. Maybe it'll lead to that, but right now we're focused only on this. And then, you know what I mean? Like that's how they at least appear to be to me. And I respect that a lot. They seem like really smart, driven, calculated guys.
Yeah. I guess the best thing that we could do as Canucks content creators is, instead of editing at our desk, we're going to run the grouse grind. And when we get to the top, that's where we do the editing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying, actually. Yeah, that was the point.
What can people expect from the Nuckhead YouTube channel and all of your socials coming up for this off season?
Oh, I don't know. I'm still like, the off season is a question mark for me. I mean, first year I did like these top 10 videos. The second year I did a series on NHL 25, I think it was, GM mode series. And this year I'm back to the drawing board. I'm like, I'm still like, that's kind of also what I meant. Again, throwing it back to the question about like advice to anyone trying to start out is I don't know what I'm doing still. And I've, there's an audience of people kind of that expect me to know. I don't. And so, you don't have to know, just start and you'll figure it out. I've started and now I'm trying to figure it out. So I don't know. What I am doing differently this time, like I'm working on a draft video right now, like did some research on all the draft picks and found some footage of them and like kind of just gonna give a detailed explanation of what each player is and what they could be. And then, I'll do a video about the free agent signings and stuff like that. And I'll just, figure it out. I just don't want to be one of those channels that like covers, every piece of news or rumors just because, not because those are bad. It's just I've tried and I don't think I'm good at it. So we'll see, but keep checking in. I'll be posting as much as I can.
Where can people find your content?
I think you could just search Nuckhead. Or Nucking Around is like the username on I think most things. But if you just search Nuckhead on Google, I think my stuff comes up.
Cool. I always like to give my guests on the podcast and on the stream a chance to speak directly to the perfectionists, which are our viewers and our content consumers. So is there anything that you would like to say to the perfectionists before I let you go for the day?
To the perfectionist.
Yeah, the perfectionists. It's the We Are Nothing is Perfect, and anyone who views the channel is called a perfectionist.
Let me think about that. I would say hogs out for nils.
No pants, just shirts, go running down the road.
Yep. I think that's the only way to honor him.
Nuckhead, I appreciate your time today, brother. It's been awesome having you on.
Yeah, we'll do it again, man. I'll get you on my show as well at some point.
As I mentioned, here we are once again joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the Silver Fox, Dustin Boydell. Welcome back to the Nothing is Perfect podcast, brother. How you doing today?
I'm good. Just 1 second. Yep, I'm getting an alert. Insider information. You are one sexy bitch.
Oh,
you heard it here first, folks. Russ is one sexy bitch. How's it going, buddy?
I'm good. It's been a bit rainy and ugly outside, but I think we'll take it because the Lower Mainland here needs some extra moisture, I think.
Yeah, not as badly as the Okanagan and up the Highway 1 there, Boston Bar. They need some water badly in those areas. Summer in BC equals forest fires and smoke.
Yeah, we've been smelling it down here in Surrey a little bit. Have you been able to smell any of the smoke out there in Chilliwack?
The other day was a little smoky, but the wind shifted, blew it all back up the valley into the Hope area. And then I have a couple friends up in the Kamloops area that have sent me pictures of the smoke up there, and it's bad. It's like it feels like Armageddon. The sun can't even get through it. So obviously we'll hope for some rain and some wetter weather, because that's the only thing that really can help those situations.
Yeah. So last week we managed to run through pretty much everything that the Vancouver Canucks did with regards to signings and trades, but it was a crazy day that went from being free agency frenzy to some kind of a trade deadline, which was pretty nuts. So we wanted to run through today everything that happened with regards to former Canucks, a couple of young guys signing their entry-level contracts, some comparables to some of the Canucks players that may be signing and have already signed, and then some very seismic shifts in the market as a result of some offer sheets and a couple of very friendly deals for some teams that have set really good standards, really good cultures. So all these things we're going to talk about, but today we're going to start off because yesterday morning, it was Tuesday, July the 7th. Everyone woke up and heard the Halford and Bruff show, but it wasn't a new one. It was a replay. And that's when Twitter kind of exploded. Everyone started freaking out about what was going on. And as the morning went on, the news came out that Rogers has decided to close down multiple radio stations across Western Canada, which includes News 1130 and, most importantly for this channel, Sportsnet 650. Really tough news. When did you first hear about it, Dustin? And what were your thoughts initially when you heard it?
I wasn't listening live to the Halford and Bruff show, so I didn't notice on the radio, but obviously I have a lot of Twitter alerts. That's where I get the majority of my quick information when things happen, because that still seems to be the information highway when it comes to insider information. And obviously Drance, Canucks news summaries, those types of guys started tweeting out that yes, the news is true. Rogers has shuttered the doors on Sportsnet 650. Very unfortunate, because AM radio is still a free media that people turn to. Some of the elder community that don't have access to streaming services or have the means to use them, or even the knowledge to use them, still turn to the radio to take in their sports information and their news information. Like you mentioned, News 1130 shut down as well. Not to mention the hundreds of jobs that are now lost. That creates a big hole in the market when it comes to sports analysis and having fresh voices to talk about the Canucks. Like you mentioned, Halford and Bruff. You have Sat Shaw and his crew. There's so many to name. We can't name them all, right? They have a pretty darn good crew over there. We don't always agree with what they say, but that's the same with us. Like, some of our chat don't always agree with what we say, but that's the beauty of sports analysis and social media. It's free speech, right? Like, you don't have to agree with us, and we don't have to agree with you, but we can have a civilized debate about it. And that was the nice thing about Sportsnet, is that's what it welcomed. They welcomed callers in to shows as well, or texting in and offering your own opinion. So it was a good way for the fans to interact and get their thoughts out there. And it's truly unfortunate. Hopefully, Rogers has said they will continue to produce Canucks games on one of their media stations. So you had said earlier before we started that that'll likely be Jack FM, one of the remaining Rogers properties on the radio in Vancouver. So expect some sort of announcement at some point with that. But just when it comes to the people that lost their jobs and things, I just want to give my thoughts to them, because that's not an easy situation, especially when it likely happened abruptly. So all the best to them. I hope they all find places to land on their feet. I'm sure they will all continue with podcasts and find a way to get their own media and voices out there on YouTube and things like that. So just make sure you follow their social medias and things, because I'm sure they will be the people that will keep you up to date with what's going on and how they will be able to deliver their Canucks news to you going forward.
Yeah, I spent the afternoon yesterday following as many of the employees of Sportsnet 650 on Twitter for that exact reason. So get out there. You can even just search it right now, because I'm assuming a lot of them have tagged it Sportsnet 650 on Twitter. So get out there and follow as many of them as you can, because there's a lot of really good people that work there. Tough news for the Calgary Flames as well, because Rogers has announced they're not even going to cover them on the radio anymore. So the Calgary Flames are even more in limbo than the Vancouver Canucks are. I assume that Brandon Batchelor and a lot of people who were in charge of producing the Canucks games on Sportsnet 650 will still be employed and will be transferred over to Jack FM if everything goes according to what we think will happen. But that means you'll probably get a really minor pregame show, a really minor postgame show. So it's going to be tough for people to get their free content. We saw all over Twitter, all over Reddit, people talking about, I'm from Australia, I'm in Asia, I stream this, and that's my way to connect with this team. So it's going to be really tough for people to get their Canucks content when it comes to the free stuff that you can get online, stuff like that. Luckily enough, there is an absolute shit ton, that is the scientific term, of content creators when it comes to
metric
Canucks
measurement,
content.
I've heard.
Yeah. You heard Nuckhead earlier on this episode, so he's a good one to follow. You got people like Diener HD. You got so many Canuck Clay, Kempner Canucks, hockey with Dubs. So many. And then here we'll obviously be keeping you guys up to date. We will be live for every single Vancouver Canucks game next year. So if you're listening to this and you don't know how you're going to get your Canucks games next year, we will be live for all 84 games because the schedule will be coming out. That's one thing I didn't tell you I wanted to talk about, but they have announced the new schedule for the NHL will be coming out on the 16th, but on the 15th, they will be announcing all of the opening night matchups. And then on the 16th, the full schedule will come out. So I wanted to mention that we here on Nothing is Perfect, me and Dustin will be live during every single Canucks game next year. 84 games. We have post-game coverage. We have intermission coverage. So if you don't know where you're going to get your coverage from, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like the video, and we will keep you up to date with everything that is going on in the world of the Vancouver Canucks and the Abbotsford Canucks.
And, you know, we will do our best to reach out, and maybe we can get some of those people coming on here to help share their thoughts. You know, not to make light of a bad situation, but it opens doors for new opportunities and fresh takes and views on the Vancouver Canucks. And like you said, we'll always be here for you guys and our listeners. And hopefully this maybe brings in some new ears and eyes to our shows. And yeah, just we'll continue to move forward and see what happens. But like you said, 84 games next year, a week away from the home opener announcements, and then next Thursday we'll know, or Friday we'll know the whole schedule.
So before we hop into talking about a bunch of former Canucks that have signed all over the league, because we want to run through a very long list, I wanted to also mention the fact that there has been no news about the Canucks assistant coaches for Matty Malhotra's crew. There has also been no announcement the Abbotsford Canucks head coach position, so we're still waiting to hear on that, and we will get you that information as soon as we can get our hands on it as well. So we're still waiting for that. Are you surprised by that, or is it just par for the course for this new management team that seems to be taking their time and going through a process to make sure they get the right people in for the positions at hand?
I'm a little surprised because everything we've been told by Ryan Johnson so far has been exactly how things have come to pass. And we were supposed to know the coaching last week. You know, that was something that he said, you know, we hope to announce it early next week. That week has come and gone. So that's something that leaves me a little concerned that there may be some monetary issues with bringing in the guys that they want to bring in, which might handcuff us a little bit in benching the coaching crew that we want. Obviously, there was the rumor that the Providence Bruins coach was going to be coming over here. But that hasn't been officially announced or anything. So from all sides, it feels like the leaks have been plugged. Because local media has just been grasping at straws with a Pettersson trade ever since the doors have been shuttered on any information coming out from the team. And even when they do say that, Pettersson trade is being aggressively pursued, I think they're misconstruing that message in saying that the Canucks are aggressively pursuing a trade for Pettersson. If the right trade comes to their door, they agree that a change of scenery might be good for him, but they still have to recover enough assets that if he comes back to form, you won't have, buyer's remorse or seller's remorse, right? Like you don't want to sell him undervalue and not recover potential assets that, project him as a third line center. He goes off and gets 120 points with a team that actually utilizes him properly and gives him elite wingers to play with. if he finds the joy in his game again, we all know how he can play when he's happy and he's got that swagger to his game. And, whenever he used to get pissed off in a game, you knew the next shift he was either going to get a goal or a hell of a scoring chance. And I hope that Manny is the guy that could find that within him again. And there's conflicting reports, right? That's the other side of the media still trying to protect their butt a little bit, with some of the guys saying, well, there is some internal people that are worried that he could regain that form here. And to me, it just sounds like the new guys that are taking over think they can help him. The old guys that have been there and are still like AGMs that didn't get let go, or analysts that didn't get let go, or maybe want to still move him out of town. So until an official report comes out of Ryan Johnson's mouth that, like, yes, we are looking for a change of scenery for Elias Pettersson, I'm just kind of hoping as a Canucks fan for the best, because with everything that happened this free agency, boy, oh boy, his 11.6 right now on this team to keep us above the cap floor looks pretty palatable for the next 5 years, given some of the money that was thrown around on July 1st outside of the Vancouver Canucks organization, because obviously they weren't going to be big spenders on July 1st. Everything else happened in the NHL. But when it comes to Elias Pettersson, if he even gets 70 points next year with his contract, that's absolute value. And then you will have people coming to your door next free agency, because free agency has changed so much. People are locking up their assets before July 1st and extending them because guys don't want to move their families and want that ability to have control over where they are. So they stay where they are and they take deals with their own teams. And then now we're seeing the offer sheet thing happen, and free agency has become a kind of a trade deadline day. Like, that's what we saw this year. People had to go out and make trades to fill the holes. The contenders had to fill holes through trade. And with the cap continuing to go up, a year under Malhotra, maybe Pettersson finds his game. Next year, maybe he's worth first rounders or, high end prospects in a trade at the end of the season, instead of trading him now just because. Why? I'm still trying to find the reason. Like, I get that he hasn't played well for 2 years, but I'm still trying to find this like deep need for him to be traded from some of the local fans and media. Like, give a guy who had 100 points a chance under a coach that we're seeing Sapster online now, who has broken down Manny's coaching. Get right on board with everything you and I have been talking about with the system that he runs, and how, yes, there's shots from the point, but when they miss the net or don't get the deflection, they don't just slump their shoulders or fire it back to the point. They try and create offense out of chaos. And it's just a totally different way of playing the game. And it's more exciting, but it's more defensively sound. And so I think that we just have to give him a chance and just stop the witch hunt for just a little bit, because if anything, his value is only going to increase. There is literally no chance this guy's value can decrease, given the way the cap is going up. It's going to be really hard for a person of his talent to decrease his value in the market now. Yes, knock on wood, barring some career-ending injury, but that's just, out in the universe, whatever, right? I'm knocking.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think we got to see what he can do this season with Manny. He maybe increases his value. You maybe get people then knocking down your door to throw whatever you want to get that change of scenery. I don't know. I just fail to see what the big problem is. I'm not anti-trade him. I'm just like, why now? Why right this second? And it just feels like it's something for them to focus on, because But before I got lost on a tangent, the leaks have been plugged.
Yeah. But I also don't like the narrative you hear from a lot of people who are like, oh, well, he's too old. He won't fit into this team when they're good. Well, guess what?
29!
Guess what? Who just won the Conn Smythe Trophy? An old motherfucker, right?
Exactly. It's just so silly. It's just all made up. Like, it's just grasping at straws just to try and create a narrative that he needs to be traded. It's a witch hunt.
The longer the
weird.
offseason,
It's
the
weird,
more
man.
straws that they're grasping at.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, DeBrusk hasn't been traded yet, and we have seen a couple reports saying people are like, well, maybe we don't want him because he's super streaky. But I also kind of think that's a silly report because 20 goals is 20 goals.
Yep. But I think it's maybe personality.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll keep you up to date. Maybe we'll see some DeBrusk news at some point. But I think there are still quite a few free agents right before we hop into looking at who he might or who the former Canucks have gotten signed. There are still Anthony Mantha, Patrick Kane, Marcus Johansson, Tarasenko, Tolvanen. These are all people who Bunting are all still available. Evander Kane.
There you go.
So these are once these guys are signed, like this is something that is not a rush. It's another thing. There is no rush to get DeBrusk out of here. Once all these guys have been signed, some of them might retire. Who knows what's going to happen? But it looks like there's
a long summer.
Yeah, it's a long summer. So no one panic. Don't panic. It's going to be all right. There is no rush.
We were told to be patient, and everyone went, hooray! They're not going to rush the rebuild to get better now. But what is everyone wanting? We want it now. We want it now. Like, just everyone just be patient.
Okay, everyone with me now. Take a deep breath in. Hold it for a second. Oh, exhale. There you go. Everyone's feeling better.
There we go. Yeah.
Right.
We're going to start doing that every week for our Canucks fans. And now for our breath.
Yeah.
And we're back.
Okay.
That's how we're going to prevent Mount Dusty from happening on the podcast.
Some people like that. So we'll wait and see. Maybe we'll
save him for live.
Yeah.
He's more fun live. You never know what he'll say.
So a bunch of former Canucks in the free agency signings. Some were sad to see go. Some haven't been on the team for a while, but I'm going to quickly run through the entire list. I may have missed people. So if I have not said a name that you know got signed somewhere, please leave it in the comments for us so we can update that list. Bluger signed in Toronto. Seelovs signed another deal with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Well, Lannon, who was part of that Calder Cup run with the Abbey Canucks, signed a one-way deal with the Colorado Avalanche. Chase Stillman, who did not get a qualifying offer, which was a little surprising. He signed with the Wings. Brendan Gaunce, former Canuck, one of the only players from that draft who managed to play any games and is still in the league somehow, signed with Boston, a 2-year deal, so good for him. These are all league minimums. Every single one except for Shelovs and Bluger, I've said so far, have been league minimum. Bluger got 2 years at $5 million. Shelovs got 1 year for 2.8. Noel Juleson, we got Rick Tockett's son, who actually got 2 years at 2.2. That's 1.1 million per year. Jet Woo, who got traded off the Abbey Canucks, got a 2-year deal transferring from the San Jose Sharks organization. Now he's going to be playing in Anaheim. That's $850 per year as well. Klimovich, as we briefly mentioned last week, did sign with Philadelphia Flyers, so we'll see if Rick Tocchet can round him into shape. That should be interesting. A 1-year deal, $850K. Yuri Patera, who saw some time with the Vancouver Canucks last year for some damn reason, signed with Boston for 1 year for $850K. Cole McWard, which was another member of the Abbey Canucks organization during that Calder Cup run, and Zach McEwen, who used to play with the Canucks as well. Both those guys both signed matching 2-year deals, $1.75 million, $850K, and then Troy Stetra as well, re-signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I wanted to circle back quickly. Bluger, good signing for Toronto. Sure's up there probably third or fourth center, would you say, Dustin?
Yeah, I'd say likely going to play him third line center. Also helps their penalty kill, which they struggled with a bit last year. So having him there was a smart signing, and good for Bluger going to a competitive team because he is getting older. So he's on a team that should make the playoffs this year with the moves they've made, and also getting McKenna in the draft. So that won't hurt at all. So we'll see. I knew he wasn't coming back here. Just he was the old guy that didn't fit the rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no need for him here when you have certain other veterans around, and you saw they went and we talked about their free agent signings like Luke Shen and Alexiak and things like that, bringing in, and Brendan Gallup making the trade for Gallagher. So some good moves there. And I think I wish Bluger all the best. I hope he does well there, but obviously his time had run its course here with the Vancouver Canucks. And I'm not too upset that we didn't bring him back, because we are kind of flush with centermen.
All of a sudden,
something that we haven't been in a long time as an organization. So it'll be really interesting to see who's playing up the middle coming out of training camp.
Yeah. And I think it's another sign of the difference in the old regime versus the new regime. A lot of people were very excited when Teddy Bluger came out in the media, be like, everyone here sucks. They're a bunch of crybabies. Everyone needs to work harder. It's like, hey, Teddy, guess what? Henrik Sedin was the captain of this team for a long time. And you know what he never did? He never threw his teammates under the bus in the media. So that, I think, for the Sedins was something they probably did not like. I'm just assuming they would never be the person who came out in the media. So some people like that. I did not like when Teddy Bluger came out, called out his teammates. If you want to do that kind of thing, you do that sort of thing in the room. You don't need to create more fires on a team that was already burning down before our eyes. So Teddy Bluger, you're right. Great on the penalty kill. It's going to be a great third or fourth liner for them. And so hopefully he does well with all his former Canuck teammates over there, OEL and Zach McHugh and Troy Stetcher. Oh my goodness. There's a lot over there. So she loves too. Love to see it. Signs a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's $2.8 million, which is a nice payday for him. At the same time, Stuart Skinner signed in Winnipeg a 2-year deal, 7.5. So this tells me that there is a good chance, Dustin, that maybe Artur Shilovs, after his performance against the Philadelphia Flyers in that playoffs, maybe Pittsburgh has finally realized this guy should be your starting goaltender. You think he gets, 50, 60 games next year?
Given who they have right now as goaltenders in their organization, he starts like 60 games next year. It could potentially be an audition for a long-term starter role, which, he was kind of destined to be an NHL goaltender, whether that is a starter or a backup. Maybe this is kind of his last chance at proving that he can be a starter. It also tells me that there's a soft goalie market, and there's a potential trade to be had for maybe a Kevin Lankinen. To get that contract off your books would be huge by Ryan Johnson. And it opens the door to have Tolopilo be your NHL backup, which I would prevent another Shilov situation, a forced trade of a young goaltending prospect that has shown they can play at the NHL level. Everyone saw what Tolopilo did last year, holding the team in some games in a very shoddy Adam Foote structure. So I would hate to see him victimized by poor contract signings the way Artur Shilovs was. And, all the best to him. I think it's a good signing by Pittsburgh, a smart gamble. But is he the guy that could get it done in Crosby's last hurrah? We'll see. A couple interesting signings that we did happen after we recorded was the Canucks did bring in a depth, gritty guy, more so for the AHL team in Matthew Steinberg, a 1-year, 2-way deal. He was with the Colorado Avalanche. He's only played 8 NHL games, and in those 8 games has 22 penalty minutes. So that tells you pretty much what his game is about in a very small nutshell. 25 years old, just down there to protect some of our young prospects in Abbotsford is more than likely why he was brought in, given that you're going to have a Riley Patterson, Braden Coots, potentially Gabe Sherratt, some of these young guys down in Abbey that are going to need some older guys that aren't afraid to mix it up and protect them a little bit. So depth signing there. And then out of town, interesting signing by Philadelphia, Nolan Foote going to play for Uncle Rick over there in Philadelphia. So kind of funny, the connection there. I'm sure he knows talk it well, given how close him and Adam were. So likely something to do with that contract happening over there.
The other, well, we got Steinberg at home now, so we never needed to get Stenberg. Speaking of Stenberg and McKenna, they both have signed their entry-level deals. So McKenna and Stenberg both signing at $1.075 million, which is probably the new entry-level deal level. Interesting to see they both sign right away, or just kind of automatic for you?
I mean, it's not surprising at all. You knew Stenberg was going to come straight into the NHL, given what he was doing in the Swedish Elite League over there in Sweden. And I mean, McKenna, the year in NCAA, he now forfeits his ability to go back by signing this contract. He's no longer an amateur hockey player, so can't put him in junior, can't put him in, I mean, he's too good for the WHL, and he's too young because I don't think he'll be 19 come the start of the season. He just turned 18 on June 2nd, I believe. So yeah, he will not have the ability to go anywhere other than the NHL. So yeah, you got to sign him.
Yeah. And you mentioned there, talking about McKenna not being able to go back to the NCAA to play in college down in the States, which is why Manny Malhotra's kid, Caleb Malhotra, will not be signing his entry-level deal yet, because he is going to be going and playing at Boston University. If he does sign a contract with the Canucks, even being the entry-level one, and even if it doesn't start, that means he is no longer amateur, no longer. So anyone out there who is already freaking out that the Canucks have not signed their third overall pick, that is the reason why they have not signed him. So relax.
It's also why they have not signed Aiden Celebrini. Everyone kind of freaks out when he's not at certain things like main camp and that sort of thing. And he's not allowed to come to main camp, because to come to main camp, he would have to sign his entry-level contract or not be in classes, and classes start when camp starts. So those guys that are fully committed to amateur hockey at the NCAA level are ineligible to sign their contracts. That's why when you look on Puckpedia and you go down, it just says must sign by this date, because there are rules for kids pursuing college education and also hockey careers at the NCAA level. You likely see Aiden Celebrini sign his entry-level contract the day after this season ends with Boston University. He is turning into a very solid stay-at-home defenseman, very responsible. Gets the puck out first try 9 out of 10 times. Very good plus minus. So excited to see more of him get a bigger role at Boston University this year, likely being one of the older guys on the team. So probably plays up the defensive lineup a bit. And so we'll keep a close eye on him. And then if Caleb lights it up this year at NCAA and decides he wants to turn pro, then the Canucks will have to approach that with him. But the plan as of now is for him to go get a college education. And in 4 years, when he has done his degree and given his maximum time at the NCAA level, then he will make the move to the NHL. So there has to be a proving by him that he wants to forego that and play in the NHL. But the Canucks also have to give him this opportunity to have that backup plan of an education, which his father likely did. His mother did go through sports scholarship through soccer. Both his uncles probably had sport scholarships. So, and they are all well-spoken, well-educated people. so they also understand the importance of that side of life. And hockey doesn't last forever, so you need to have a plan. And that speaks to the maturity of Caleb Malhotra and the upbringing, and why I have so much confidence in the fact that it would never be a conflict, him being coached by Manny, if it ever did come to that. I know people are like, oh man, I know there's some that are saying Manny won't even be the coach here when Caleb plays. And I truly think Manny might be one of the longest tenured Canucks coaches come the time he retires, because people are going to be pleasantly surprised with the way this guy carries himself and the culture that him and Ryan Johnson are going to rebuild for this organization. Everyone just needs to be patient, but it will happen. I from following Outs for 2 years, seeing now Sapster's comments, I'm just beaming, because he gets it out there better than anyone when it comes to breaking down the data in a way that the layman could understand. And so it's great. And I'm just super excited to get this summer over with.
I will not be shocked to see Aiden Celebrini sign some kind of a deal at the end of this year in either place, some AHL time or some NHL time. NHL time if the Canucks are an absolute disaster and out of the playoffs. Probably AHL time.
Or injury hell like last year.
Who knows, right? There's a lot of different reasons, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Very similar to what you saw, different situation, because obviously they signed as free agents, but Bennett Shimmick and Austin Brimmer both signed at the end of the year, got some time in the AHL. I would say that is a very reasonable path for Aiden Celebrini to take at the end of this year when he finishes up his degree.
I concur, Doctor.
The Calgary Flames, we mentioned a little bit earlier, they won't have a radio broadcast as of right now. Hopefully they figure that out. But they did sign their new piece they traded for from the New Jersey Devils. Simon Nemec signed a 5-year, $36.25 million deal. That's $7.25 million per year. And the main reason I bring that up is because we have a young defenseman in Zeev Buium that is an RFA right now. Does this make the Vancouver Canucks front office job easier because of the comparables to Simon Nemec and Mr. Zeev Buium in getting some kind of an extension done this summer to avoid offer sheet hell next summer for the Canucks?
I would think the red flags have been going up for sure. And I would expect them to get something done in an 8-year extension before the, I believe, September 15th deadline for teams that have rights of players prior to July 1st of this year. So I hope they do that to secure that left side for a bit. I know we haven't seen the best of Zeev given the coaching that he came into last year, but I do think that we'll see a much different player, much more elite, more like the national team Zeev Buium that was seen at junior levels that never lost wherever he went. I think we'll see more of that hunger. It'll be unleashed a little bit, his ability to play offense. So I hope they manage to get something done, maybe in the 8x8 region. Given that he hasn't had a great season yet, but with his potential ceiling and the way the RFA structure is happening, and people just not afraid to give up 4 first-round draft picks, it would be smart for RJ and company to lock up a young prospect like that. And when you get that value, it not only has value now, down the road with the cap continuing to go up. If you get in a situation where you need to trade a player like Zeev Buium, you have an extremely cap friendly young prospect that can be moved for potentially game changing prospects down the line. So it would be absolutely good business to get that done.
Yeah, we hope so. Be interesting to see if they go with that max 8-year deal that will be gone as of, like you said, September 15th. After that, 7-year deal will be the maximum length. But with a lot of these contracts going out lately, these players are not necessarily signing the longest deals.
Nope.
Unless you're Demidov, who signed an 8-year, $73 million deal. I wonder why. Maybe it's because he has an incredible coach, great culture, good for him, signing a very team-friendly deal. $73 million over 8 years, that's only $9.13 million per year for Demidov over there in Montreal. So setting the bar for organizational synchronicity, I think, as they have now locked up their whole core. Their 8 or 9 best players are locked up long-term for the Montreal Canadiens, so they will be a beast for a very long time with some cap space to spare. Good to see him get his payday.
Yeah, I mean, very tidy work by the Canadiens management here. They are in their competitive window. They have older veterans with no term to continue carrying these young guys. But, it is spread out perfectly when you look at their cap, and they can add pieces at the deadline, given they're going in with $14 million. So very good work. Like you said, culture, coaching, who's running the ship makes a big difference in where players want to go. And we heard that as a goal of Ryan Johnson and Manny, they said they want to make it a place players want to play again, because players do like the city of Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Like, British Columbia is a beautiful place. It's not that it's just, and the fans are incredible. When you're winning, the fans are probably some of the best, probably top 5 fans in the league. When this team's winning, they're the most supportive group out there. But it's been a while, and things have not been operating the way they should be. And so it's going to take time to rebuild that trust. But if I had faith in anybody, it'd be these guys.
Another contract that probably helps the Canucks in different ways, maybe helps the narrative around the team. Nico Hischier signing a 5-year deal at $58.5 million, which brings him in at 11.7. Now listen to that closely, Canucks fans. 11.7 for Nico Hischier, a centerman who has played 609 games and has scored 448 points, which brings him in at an average of 66 points per season. Well, why do I keep on saying 11.7, Dustin? I can't quite recall.
I don't know. Do we have a guy who averages higher points per season that is assigned for 11.6, and that cap is going to age very well? And I already harped on it earlier without meaning to in my tangent. Like, this is what I was talking about 2 years ago when we started this podcast, and I was defending the contract that PD signed and said, look, in 2-3 years, this thing is going to be valuable. It'll be fine, because if he gets anywhere close to his old game, he will be a huge trade prospect, or he will find his game and everything will be fine. So everyone just stay calm, because things like this are starting to happen. You got Nico Hischier being thrown $11.7 million for 66 points a season. So as of right now, Pettersson's paid like a second line center. And in 2 more years, he's going to be paid like a third line center. It's just the way the cap inflation is going. And as crazy as it sounds, his value is only going to go up. That's why I said it's next to impossible for his value to go down, given the fact that he still sold his body out every game for a coach he hated, for a team that didn't want him. And he was out there blocking 80, 90 mile an hour shots. Like, you heard Connor Cahill and you heard Canuckland talking about how hard the puck sounds when it's hitting goaltenders' pads and how it still must hurt through goaltenders' pads. Guess who's not wearing goaltenders' pads? Elias Pettersson. And he's still putting his body in front of that puck. It means something when you do that. It means something to your teammates, and it means a lot to your goalie. Take it from someone who used to throw everything he had in front of shots to prevent the puck from getting to his net and to his goalie. Would I tip the occasional one in or screen my goalie from time to time? Yeah. But for the ones that I ate in the body, in the arms, in the legs where there's no padding, you get that extra tap on the shin pads from your teammates, from your goalies. You slide to block one. It just shows your commitment to the team. So if you want commitment, that's the stuff you look for. And that's why I defend Pettersson. I don't give a shit what he's like off the ice. I don't care about his personality. If he's doing that on the ice, I know this guy has my back as a teammate.
I feel like a guy like Manny Malhotra and a guy like Ryan Johnson would appreciate a highly paid center who blocks shots, because both of them spent a lot of time in their NHL careers throwing their body on.
John Tortorella would come.
Yeah. Oh man, would he be a good assistant coach? Oh, you heard it here first, folks.
Oh. Hot off the presses.
I never thought about that.
Start that fire.
He's
up.
available, right?
Yeah.
All right. So good contract for the Canucks and Nemec. Good contract for Demidov. Good contract for the Canucks and Heischer. Let's talk about contracts that aren't so great. Leo Carlsson, everyone knows about this one, being offer sheeted by the Philadelphia Flyers. 5 years, $18 million. It is front loaded with bonuses. So in the first year of the contract, it is going to require whatever team ends up signing him to pay $39 million up front. Signing bonuses, crazy stuff. The Anaheim Ducks now have to make a tough decision. They have until 5 p.m. this Friday coming up. So we are recording this on Wednesday, July the 8th. So they have until Friday this week to make their decision. Dustin, where do you even want to start? Like, do they match this offer, or do they just let Carlson fly away?
So first off, Danny Briere's playing chess, not checkers. Second, you never go public and say we will match any offer sheet given to X player. Big mistake. That's like showing your cards in poker. And Danny Briere went, "Oh yeah, watch this. I have the cap space to do something crazy." Granted, Michkov is an RFA next year, so we could get some things happening and fireworks and whatever, some payback. But this is essentially payback for Gauthier saying, "I'm not going to play here and trade me," and forcing the Philadelphia Flyers' hand. Well, they're now going to force Anaheim's hand, who ended up getting Gauthier for basically nothing. So yeah, Anaheim's at a crossroads. They either match it and will be forced to probably trade Cutter Gauthier to somewhere that can afford his next contract, or they lose their franchise centerman. And yeah, I mean, a very smart move and conniving business move by Danny Briere, but it's in the rules. It's a steep price to pay if they win the contract. They have to give the next 4 years first round picks to Anaheim, all unprotected. So it's a hefty fine when you do this. However, it would solidify Philly down the middle, top line, for the foreseeable future, for the next 5 years, obviously. And also, could he have some chemistry with Michkov to reignite the offense that he lost under one Rick Tocchet?
Well, I look at this in maybe a similar fashion to what happened with the Ottawa Senators and their captain demanding to be traded to play with his brother, which we as Canucks fans have felt very, very strongly. With our captain, Quit Hughes, doing the same thing. Ottawa didn't really want to keep him. By all accounts, he was a problem in the locker room. There's been reports coming out this week that everyone hated his podcast that he does with his brother, and that caused troubles. So does Anaheim just let Leo Carlsson walk and then use those 4 first-round picks to try and find another piece, trade for something? Or is it just one of those situations like we keep on talking about? The free agency market, there's not really anything available. Can you even manage to recoup even if you get those 4 first-round picks and use them to trade for another piece from somewhere else?
That's why it's taking them so long to deliberate this decision. It's not an easy one. Um, they're right there with their rebuild, and to lose Carlson would put them 2 steps backwards. And then you run the risk of not getting the right player to fit with the build you have going right now. They got a lot of questions coming up, and I mean they keep getting their butts handed to them when it comes to free agency because they had another player weaponize an offer sheet. It's the other side of it. They don't even have to sign it to get what they want out of their team. Pavel Minchikov, teammate of Leo Carlson, he had his agent bring an offer sheet to the Anaheim Ducks and said, give us more or this, or we're going to sign it, and you'll be forced to make a decision on two of your players. So Anaheim immediately signed Minchikov because it was a little easier to stomach at the 5.75, I believe he was signed to, or 5.25, somewhere in the
7.2 it ends up. It's 5 years at $36 million. $7.2 million
I was thinking
per year.
about someone else's contract. Yeah, 7.25. You are correct.
So yeah. They get him locked down, right? A big piece of that run they had last year in the playoffs. He is an up and coming guy. He's only played 3 years for the team. He's only 22 years old, 6'1", 207 pounds, coming from Russia. He was their first round pick, 10th overall in 2022. So to lose him would have been an absolute blow to the organization as well. He's not a huge points guy so far. He's averaging, 22 to 28 points in his first 3 years. Hasn't been able to play the whole season as well. He's missed some time with injury and stuff like that. But yeah, another young piece that the Anaheim Ducks could have locked up last year and didn't. So Pat Verbeek, who reports have come out, he's maybe nickel and diming his players a little bit. Maybe that's starting to piss these guys off. And at the end of the day, it is a business. And if you don't treat people right, bam, this is the kind of stuff that happens.
Well, and you mentioned earlier Jet Wu signing a contract with these guys, and given the makeup of their defense, he might actually get some NHL games here finally in his long career, coming up and protecting some of these younger guys in Pavel Minchikov, and he's also a right shot defenseman, which they are pretty thin on the right side. So they lost Trouba and Gudas both this offseason, so some big issues with their blue line. So getting Minchikov was way more important. Was probably just as important as getting the Carlson situation sorted, but when it came to the blue line, they had to make that move right away.
The other offer sheet that went out, you mentioned Poker a little bit earlier, former Poker player, the new GM of the New Jersey Devils, putting an offer sheet forward for Barrett Hayton from the Utah Mammoth. Ends up matching it. It is a 1-year deal now, so Barrett Hayton will be paid $4.775 million to play for the Utah Mammoth in the upcoming season. Pretty much an automatic for Utah because of the price of the contract, I'd say, right?
Yeah, 100%. Utah's entering their big window here. Made some good moves this offseason, and I think they wanted to keep him around. But there was also reports that there may have been a trade already with New Jersey and Utah for Hayton, so feels like a bit of dirty poker, trying to sneak him for free without giving up an asset. So, but yeah, I could see why you would make that move, but being a rookie GM in this league, you don't want to make enemies. And that seems like a move that could potentially make an enemy. And you want to be careful because word travels fast. If you're a snake, you'll have a tough time making deals in the league.
Sonny Meta playing hardball to start.
I respect the move, but I'm saying it's one of those leagues, right? Word travels fast. If you burn one, you burn all his friends. So you got to be careful with the certain moves you make. Same with Briere in the offer sheet, right? I mentioned Michkov comes up next year. Someone could turn around. If they don't get something done there, someone could turn around and do the same thing. So,
oh man, Chicago's starting to look real desperate to try and convince our hometown man to stay, even though he hurt his shoulder the other day playing down at 8 Rinks, which everyone saw because of Live Barn. And I said to you through our conversation, I think these players are going to start asking Live Barn to be turned off. That kind of thing is going to be happening. Bowen Byram, this is what I'm talking about. Is he the best defenseman in the league? Because he's being paid the most money.
Now.
Yeah, 6 years, $75 million. That's $12.5 million per season for a defenseman who has literally never been the number one defenseman on any team he's ever played on. Is this yet another example of the market reset with the increase? Or where do you put this? Is it a market reset because of the cap increase? Or is it the result of a desperate general manager who's trying to save his own job?
I think it's if it doesn't work, I'm getting fired anyway situation. But Byram has been shoved behind Rasmus Dahlin forever in Buffalo's depth. So no one really knows what he could do if he was given the opportunity to be the number one guy and be on the power play. The sound heard round the league when this contract was signed was Bill Guerin's ass literally suction cupping shut, knowing he has to bargain with Quinn Hughes. If Bowen Byram is getting $12.5 million, how much money do you think Quinn Hughes market value is now at?
Quinn Hughes,
right? So he
wants the same as Kaprizov, 100%.
But that's what I mean. This Byram contract gives him even more ammo to do that. And when players sign contracts like this, the NHLPA gets frustrated because it does create a market earthquake. It changes the value of defensemen. My God, if Ryan Johnson is not taking calls on Filip Hronek, he's crazy. I get that Hronek's a veteran that you kind of want around, but holy shit, is his value ever sky high. I know that his agent has been vocal about the no move clause. Well, Ryan Johnson didn't sign any of the no movement clauses except for Luke Schenz so far. So he has no loyalty to those contracts. However, he understands that he needs to be open and honest with the agents, which he has said. He said, if a team comes to me with a realistic offer, I will go to the agent and open that conversation. I'm not going to go to a player and say, hey, I'm going to shop you around, because that's not respectful. So we will see what happens. But my goodness, Anaheim could be pretty desperate for a veteran right-hand defenseman that's making $7 million for the next 4 years or 5 years. Man, oh man, his value is insanely high.
They also might have some extra first-round picks for a center they might need, so should be interesting to see. The couple of Andersons signing some deals. One was insane in Rasmus Andersson. 7 years, $50.5 million, $8.5 million for Rasmus Andersson. Another defense where you're like, why the hell are you paying that money for him? He wasn't even great in the playoffs last year. And then the other one, Frederik Andersen, Stanley Cup winning Frederik Andersen. A 1-year deal, $2.8 million for the Edmonton Oilers. Let's start with Rasmus Andersson. Insane contract for a man will be 36 years old at $8.5 million, right?
Yeah, I mean, but it tells me that Pietrangelo is going to retire on the injured reserve. He's never coming back, because even if he did come back next year, they would be capped out. They would not get cap circumvention in the playoffs. So, that's basically the only reason they had the ability to do this. And it took a big UFA off the market. Man, oh man, it's a big risk though. They got to hope he can provide what Pietrangelo was able to provide them for years. And I don't know if he's that guy. We'll see.
Well, and then on the other Anderson, Frederik Andersen, the goaltender, signing with Edmonton. Like, if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, you're probably upset to see him win a Stanley Cup outside of Toronto. If you're an Edmonton Oilers fan, you should probably be chatting with some of your Maple Leafs fans, friends, because, man, Freddie Andersen had a real tough time staying healthy when he was a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. this could end up being another one of those contracts I think that blows up in the Oilers' face, because if he can't play a full season as a number one goalie, you're right back having Jerry as your number one goalie again. And we all saw how that was working when he was coming out in the media to call out his teammates.
And Devin Levi as your backup. Yeah. Good luck, Edmonton.
Couple old guys signing contracts too. Ovechkin took his sweet time, but he has signed a very nice deal with the Washington Capitals, a 1-year deal at $4.25 million. He is coming back, and I said off the air, he, I think, wants to hit that 1,000 goal mark. Might be a bit of a stretch to do it in 1 year, but either way, with the moves that the Washington Capitals have been making to collect some assets, trying to make a push to make the playoffs again, and they weren't too far off last year. So maybe Ovechkin and Crosby meet up in the playoffs again this year. That'd be kind of fun.
And he's well insulated now. He doesn't have to play big, heavy minutes. He can just go out there on the power play, sit around on the bench, go out there if they need him. That's basically, he's going to be a fourth line guy that plays on the first line power play.
Yeah.
Essentially what Ovechkin's going to be.
Sit on the bench, sit on the face-off dot.
Yeah. So it's just, offensive zone faceoffs. Get out there, Ovi. After an icing, get out there, Ovi. So that's all he's going to be. He'll probably not take a single defensive zone faceoff again next year unless he has to on an icing or something. But he wants that 1,000. That's why he probably said the 1, maybe 2 years.
Yeah. John Carlson, the other old guy, he signs a 2-year deal, though, $17 million down there in Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay trying to load up and get a little bit more, right? $8.5 million for John Carlson seems a little steep, but this is the new NHL that we're
You got to have depth. You got to protect against the Hedman injury again.
Yep.
And that's essentially what that is.
Yeah.
Insulation for Hedman.
And then some more, we talked about it. Gudas signing a 6-year deal at $1.5 million per. What does that make him like? Is he going to be like 40-something years old when that contract is up in Florida? That's crazy.
42 years old. But I mean, when you go to a tax-free state, you make much more of that 1.5 million, and that's state tax, not federal tax. Still has to pay federal income tax. Everyone does in the U.S. But there's no state taxes, so there's no like PST like we pay in BC here. They don't have any of that, and there's no state income tax, so they don't take anything off your wages for that. So you make more in the long run in those states, and there does need to be something done about that, but that's a story for another day.
And then the last thing we'll bring up here, the San Jose Sharks. Everyone was singing their praises. They won the draft. They ended up getting Stenberg, and they got Verhoff. And they ended up getting Ryan Lynn and all this good stuff. And then bam, they traded for Nurse, and bam, they signed Jacob Trouba. They now have Jacob Trouba and Nurse for 4 years. $8.25 million for Trouba, $9.25 for Darnell Nurse. So you're looking at $17.5 million on these two defensemen that, in my opinion, neither one of them should be a top pair defenseman. That, I'm looking at Nurse. He's probably on any good team, he's probably a 4-5, and Trouba's probably the same, right? So it's so weird because Greer seems like he's such a chill bro. He's been like taking his sweet time, but all of a sudden these moves. What's the deal with this?
I mean, everything good they did at the draft, they undid with committing $17.5 million for the next 4 years to 2 defensemen over the age of 30. This is why I thought for sure they were drafting a defenseman to not go down this road. I mean, granted, they did get Verhoff and Lynn.
They picked up Kesselring too.
And Kesselring, yes. But this is a lot when you got one Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, both coming up next season for re-up. I'd be a little scared. And then down the road, you're going to have to pay Stenberg as well. You got Chernysov in 2 years. So a big risk with a small window here. They're trying to go for broke fast, and that may hurt them in the end.
They also have Orlov, who's another 30 plus. He's 34 years old, signed this year for $6.5 million. So a team that appeared to be poised to make the playoffs last season, which ended up falling off the end, probably mostly as a result of their best player in Celebrini kind of tailing off after his injury, not being able to carry the team completely through the whole season. I don't know. I feel like this kind of makes me feel the same way as I did with Calgary trading for Simon Nemec, where it feels like they're trying to accelerate the rebuild, and that sometimes can really mess you up.
100%. 100%.
All right.
Yeah. But it's when you have the draft capital like Craig Conroy, you can take those risks.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Dustin, I appreciate you joining today. Is there anything you want to say to our lovely perfectionists before we end off for the show?
Be patient, but you're also the best. I hope everyone has a great week. Thanks again for joining us. You guys are the best. I don't say that lightly. So thank you again for all your support. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share the podcast on any platform that you're listening or watching. And we will chat with you all next week.
Thanks so much for joining today here on the Nothing is Perfect podcast. My name is Russell Holiday. This is Nothing is Perfect. And make sure that you make good choices.
Nothing is perfect.